Welcome to Conversations. I'm Nancy Kachingira. Today we're talking about something that is actually very close to my heart because for a long time I had so many questions about what to do with myself, my career, my purpose, my passion, so many questions. And here to help me with that is someone who I've actually discovered is quite amazing. His name is Brian Walusimbi. Hey Brian.
Hey Nancy, how are you doing?
Very, very good.
Great.
Thank you for coming on Conversations.
Welcome.
Now, you've got a remarkable story, and I just want us to talk about that a little. First of all, tell us what you do. You have Funhouse Creations, and that does kids' parties mainly.
Yeah.
And you are a clown.
Mm-hmm.
Most people would be offended by that, but you actually are a clown.
Yeah, I am a clown.
And aside from that, you have the Blessed Child Foundation that takes care of kids with cancer. Okay, I want to know how this all began. Tell me about your journey into this. Let's start with Funhouse Creations. How did that come into being?
Wow, Funhouse Creations, that goes a long way back. 2002. Broke with 10,000 shillings left in my life. And that
was all you had, 10,000 shillings.
That's all I had.
You were so broke you couldn't pay attention.
Yeah, with 10,000 shillings, not much you can do with that. So I actually felt in my heart that God was telling me to do clowning as a business and as a ministry. So that was the beginning. I went into town and I met a good friend of mine. She asked me, what do I do? What am I doing? And then I told him I'm starting to do kids' parties and face painting, all that stuff. And she said, I know somebody who could use your services. So all of a sudden, we called up the person, and they were willing to meet me the following day. So in the evening, I actually went to the one only internet cafe that we had in town called Lotus, just right behind Fidodido. Yeah, the slowest internet ever. So I typed in the word clown, and so much stuff came up.
You didn't even know what clowning
Apart from
involved?
seeing Clown Ferdinand on TV, you know that German TV show that we used to have on UBC, on UTV then, that we never used to understand a single thing they were saying. Yeah, but that's what apart from that one, I didn't know any other clown. So I Googled clown, and so much stuff came up, and I took notes of everything, what clowns do. So I went for a meeting. It was at one of the local schools. I went for the meeting and sat in the meeting. I literally read everything off the paper, everything I had written. And at the end, they asked me how much I wanted. When I went there, I wanted to ask for 80,000 shillings. But I decided, okay, if it's a good idea and a good idea, why don't I try and stretch it and see how far it will go? So I asked for 1 million shillings. In 2002, 1 million shillings was way too much. So they all looked at me, and I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be thrown out. And finally, after a few minutes, she said, how about if we give you 800,000 shillings? The truth is, I was almost about to scream, jump off the seat, because I had never gotten 800,000 shillings at once. So I didn't own a bank account, so I couldn't ask for a check. I said, I can only take it if you give it to me in cash. So they gave me the money, and yeah, you should have seen the border ride I took, as fast as possible to run away as quickly as I could.
Before they find out that you have no idea what you're talking about.
And I ended up doing the party. It was the beginning of a new journey. I started doing home parties, which weren't paying 800,000, paying much, much less than that. But yeah, it kept on growing and growing. And we have done parties for almost every company, every hotel in Kampala, embassies. Yeah, so we've been everywhere, locally and even internationally.
Wow.
So yeah, so it has just been a lovely journey doing that.
That's Funhouse Creations.
Yeah, face painting, puppet shows, bouncing castles, candy flows, all that stuff, yeah.
So how did Blessed Child Foundation come up? Because that's something you do as well.
Yeah.
How did that begin? What was the genesis of that?
I once in a while used to do a charity party, once in a while for a few companies. So in 2007, I had just finished doing a party for one of the charities in Uganda, and I was approached by someone from the Cancer Institute, Uganda Cancer Institute, and said, hey, could you do a charity party for kids with cancer? I wasn't interested because in my mind, I only had seen cancer on TV. I didn't know any Ugandan who had cancer, and I never even thought a child could have cancer. So it was a hard decision for me to do that. But they kept on insisting, and one of them just said, why don't you just come and have a look? And if you want to do it, you do it. If you don't feel like doing it, it's okay. So I went to the Cancer Institute with a couple of my friends to have a look at the place. And oh my goodness, I was blown away. Small room with adults, kids, men, women, all mixed together. So much pain. Verandas filled with people in a lot of pain. Tumors coming out of the eyes, mouth of some kids, some of them just about to die. It was the most painful, desperate place I had ever been in. I had tears in my eyes. I actually looked more of a mess than the kids that were in there. So I decided to walk outside, and as I was standing outside, a kid of 7 years came up to me with a huge tumor. And he told me all he needed was just transport to head back home. So I asked him if he had gotten any kind of treatment. He said no. I asked him to call his mom. And when she came, she told me they had come from northern Uganda, Gulu, 6 months ago. They thought it was just a small tumor, swelling. They would get quick treatment, head back home. But the kind of cancer which he had is called Burkitt's lymphoma, which can triple in size within 36 or 48 hours, really quickly. They had, just the tests alone had finished all the money they had, because before you get chemo, you do lots of blood tests, some scans. So it had finished everything they had. So they were stuck, and no money for food, no accommodation, no money for treatment. And as I explained, the place is so small, so every bed is needed. So if you can't afford treatment, then you have to make way for somebody else who maybe can or has a higher chance of survival. So they were living on verandas, tired, wanting to head back home. I asked them how much they needed. They told me the amount. And luckily, in the morning, somebody had given me exactly that amount of money to do for them. Exactly that amount of money to do for them a party over the weekend. Gave them the money. They were really grateful. And that was the beginning of my journey. I decided to do parties for the kids, which I called Smile Again parties, because I believed that that was the one time in the year these kids would not focus on their pain and just be like normal kids, enjoy a grand, beautiful party. And right now, there is a huge difference that has happened ever since I started the journey of kids with cancer. It has changed my life to appreciate life more, discover my purpose. Those kids have done way much more for me than I could ever do for any of them. Now, before I can do anything, I have to think through, do we have enough money to pay the bills?
Would you say your life is better? Are you happier? Are you more fulfilled?
I'm more broke.
That's a given.
But way happier, way happier.
What's one of the most difficult challenges you've had to face?
Wow, that's a hard one.
There are lots to choose from.
There are quite many, you know. But one of the toughest moments doing this was last year, actually. You know, in our home, the house that we have in Makerere, kids come in and stay for as long as they need, as they're going through treatment with their parents. And you know, some of them stay for quite a while, some a year or even more. These kids end up becoming more like family. You see them every day, you spend time with them every day, you're rushing when they're sick, you're up with them when they're up and alive. And last year was pretty tough because we lost 17 kids, back to back, in a span of about 2 months, 2 to 3 months. So, and it was really hard. Washing their bodies, cleaning them up, doing the funerals, the services. It was so heartbreaking. And yeah, ask yourself, with what I have, the skills I have, what can I do? And you will discover that there's so much that you can do. There's so much that you can give. There's so much. You know, we are meant to be givers. Yeah, the more you have your hands filled, you can never receive. And that's the beauty about giving, because every time you give, you receive.
Wow. Brian, it's been so great talking to you. I, for one, am really inspired by what you're doing, and I do think that it's only going to get better. It is. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved us.